Righto, we all know it, we love collecting Pokemon cards, but the problem is that they are very expensive, and not only are they expensive, but it's pretty easy to lose touch with just how expensive they really are. We somehow convince ourselves that spending $120 like on a booster box is normal, or that buying a PSA 10 Alt Art is like only $350 or it's only $400. But like, you could buy a Nintendo Switch with that kind of money. And some alt art cards are the same price as a brand new PS5. Yet when we're within the hobby, we tend to forget just how expensive this hobby can be. So I thought about providing some insights on how to collect on a budget and provide some unique tips on how to do that, which tips I've used previously. Like, one of the issues that a lot of investors and collectors face is the access to easy money with buy now and pay later services, and I'm going to explore the issues with these later in this video. But as many of you know, Pokemon collecting and investing is one of my favorite hobbies. However, I also have a daughter to provide for, I've got my fiance, I've got my home, I've got my bills, and all these things come before my Pokemon cards. But that doesn't mean that there's not room for me to buy Pokemon cards. It just means that I need to allocate a particular budget for my collection goals. Now, here's the thing. Trying to collect every card and every chase card is unrealistic and also pretty irresponsible. I actually cover this topic in great detail in my video called What No One Tells You About Pokemon Investing, and I encourage you to watch that after this video. Like, unless you're in a very fortunate position to have a huge income and you can spend that on hobbies, but even so, collecting every master set of every set along with every booster box is pretty unrealistic. And honestly, if you are willing to accept any advice that I can give you, you probably shouldn't do that because it's a quick way to get yourself in debt. Hence why I want to show you in this video a few tips and tricks I've used in order to build a pretty cool collection while managing life at the same time. So here are the tips, right? The first tip I can give you is to avoid using buy now, pay later services for buying cards. We live in a very interesting time right now where access to debt is the easiest it's ever been. You see, with our parents, right, for them to take debt, they needed to get a credit card, which even though is still bad, there was a little barrier or some friction needed to obtain the credit card, right? An assessment was required, and this didn't really stop people from getting themselves in debt, but at least there was some sort of way of some assessment before they could get a debt or get a loan. Though these days with the new buy now, pay later services, they all provide you free access to money with a very enticing offer. It kind of sounds too good to be true. With these new buy now, pay later services, you get no interest. All you need to do is pay it off in the due time. Now, if you are good with your money, you can manage your cash flow and you can probably leverage these systems to your advantage. But the reality is most people who are smart with their finances would never use these services. So they prey on people who struggle with delay in gratification. Now, not only that, but if you're buying this to rip packs, that's really dangerous because you could put yourselves in 8 weeks of debt to open packs. And once the feelings of opening the packs is all done, you're just left with the debt, and this can become incredibly problematic. Now, to add a bit of insult to injury, if you're looking through this from like a Pokemon investing lens, right? Sometimes with Pokemon products, you also feel like you're racing against a clock to purchase them. Like, look what just happened with Blaziken VMAX Alt Art's bullish run, right? For every day that you waited to buy was another day that the price rised in value. It literally doubled in price within a few weeks. So it's very tempting when you're seeing this to take a buy now, pay later loan and grab the card during such an enormous bull run. Though it really should go without saying, if you do not have the money on you right now, it's probably not worth it to use these services to get yourself into debt over some collectible investments, even if you think they're about to rise. Like, just an example for me, when Fusion Strike sold out earlier this year, I actually had an opportunity to buy 2 cases of Fusion Strike for below retail price. I knew it was a good investment, though at the same time, I didn't have the liquid cash to make that kind of purchase, and I certainly didn't want to touch my savings to purchase that. Even though I knew it was going to rise, I had full confidence that Fusion Strike was going to rise, I just settled with buying 2 booster boxes instead, which was more realistic with my current budget. And yes, look what's happened. Fusion Strike has doubled in price, though I have absolutely zero regrets because the feeling of not getting into debt felt way better than the potential rises that I could have made. And I encourage all of you to take this kind of rationale as well when it comes to buying products. Never regret missing out on a purchase if you didn't have the funds available, even if it increased. If you delayed a purchase because you didn't have the money, you always made the right choice. So definitely don't touch these buy now, pay later services, no matter how good your intuition or how good you think a product's gonna rise or however you think it's gonna go. Like, I get it, man. I know one of the worst feelings is when you look at a product or a card and you go, oh, I could have bought this for half price back then. I mean, that feeling sucks, right? But here is something that I don't think a lot of people have told you. Buying an Umbreon VMAX at $2,000 when you have the money is better than buying Umbreon VMAX at $1,000 when you don't have it. Just remember that. Also guys, if you have been enjoying the video so far, feel free to throw a like down. It really helps with the algorithm and supposedly helps it get more reach. And also subscribe to the channel if you've been liking the content. It really helps me continue building this kind of content. Now, moving on to the second point, it is to be very careful of the Diderot effect. So you're probably thinking, wait, the what, the who, the what now? Now, the Diderot effect is a phenomenon which occurs when you buy one thing and then it leads into a spiral of consumption to buy more items to fit within that category. It's pretty much what modern consumerism is built upon. So the Diderot effect came about from the French philosopher Denis Diderot, where he received a dressing gown as a gift. Now, because this dressing gown was so nice, he felt all his other items within his home felt second best in comparison. So to match the new gown, he started purchasing items to match the aesthetic, which led to a spiral of consumption which placed him in a major debt. The Diderot effect is simple. One purchase can create a chain reaction of purchases due to a sense of dissatisfaction. And honestly, I feel this effect is particularly strong with Pokemon collecting and investing. You know, you buy a Twilight Masquerade booster box and then you kind of feel like, well, you need the chase card of the set because what's so good about buying just the booster box? So you go and buy the Greninja Chase. Then you say, well, you probably should get the Eevee illustration rare as it's also an iconic card from the set. And then you kind of say, well, what good is this Eevee illustration rare without the Magikarp illustration rare? So you go buy the Magikarp. And then you say, well, the Magikarp is good, but I probably should buy a Paldea Evolved booster box because why wouldn't I have the original set from where it came from? And then one $100 booster box has become $1,000 of purchases because of dissatisfaction. So a good tip to avoid this trap is to reflect on your purchases and see if you truly need something or if it's something else that's lacking in your life. A lot of the time when we hyper consume, it's a way of dealing with other problems. Like for me, it was like eating food, right? I used food as a coping mechanism, though for others, it might be buying a lot of nice things. Whatever it is, make sure that you reflect to get yourself out of this position or not put yourself in that position in the first place. You know, reflect, journal, write it down, and don't FOMO, because every time you FOMO and live that kind of way, it's just a very unhealthy way to live. Now, moving on to number 3, it is to understand the power of non-chase card Pokemon cards as budget investments. There's a lot of power of buying products before they boom, and patience is an incredible skill set when it comes to Pokemon investing. Like currently, when I'm looking at these illustration rares, these have incredible unique artworks and none will ever get recreated in the same way. They are so unique within the era. I mean, some of these new illustration rares are super affordable. Like, I mean, they're beyond ridiculous on how good the price is. And as time goes on, guys, collectors will want to add these sets to their collections, but they're gonna need to pay a premium. Like, check out the Leafeon and Glaceon from Crown Zenith. These have had some huge price increases as of late, and you could have bought these for like $15 not that long ago. So, you know, if you buy these when they're not that expensive, you've at least experienced some growth on your products without over leveraging yourself on pricing. So, you know, a $15 card is much easier than a $150 card. Though at the same time, this is where it requires a little bit of restraint because the Diderot effect can come in very easily and you may be unsatisfied and think, oh, I need the best chase card of this set. So you got to try calm it down as well. Like when I tell you this kind of advice, guys, I'm kind of telling myself the same advice because this is one of my greatest weaknesses. I just keep wanting to add to my collections and then I just struggle with sometimes, you know, getting the second chase of the card. But I really should be satisfied if I just get any kind of card as long as I think it's a good investment. Though if you don't want smaller chase cards as investments, then you should just hold off and wait until you can get your heavy hitters. Now, guys, a little bonus tip, which I found very easy whenever I wanted to save more money, is I also focused on having a low cost hobby. So a lot of the times hobbies are usually pretty expensive, right? You know, there's 4-wheel driving, there's fishing, which is actually more expensive than you think. There's smoking meats, right? And then, you know, the list goes on and on with how expensive hobbies can be. Now, For the record, collecting Pokemon cards is definitely not a low-cost hobby. It is a very expensive hobby. Though some of my own low-cost hobbies that I want to share with you are going to the gym and working out. My gym membership costs like $15 a week and provides a huge amount of benefits, and the benefits outweigh the cost by a long shot. And another low-cost hobby I have is playing single-player video games, not online gacha games, because that can get really expensive. But single-player games are actually really affordable, and I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this. Something like Zelda Breath of the Wild has given me over 200 hours of playtime for a game that cost me $70. That's like 30 cents an hour for entertainment. Tell me what else can give you 30 cents an hour of entertainment. Same goes with, like Smash Bros or Mario Odyssey. These have all exceeded 150 hours of enjoyment on my Nintendo Switch. Not many hobbies are as low cost as single player video games, and they also provide a really good way to just relax and chill out. But guys, these tips are important, and I feel they're important because I don't want people to get themselves into financial holes and debt problems. And a lot of you who watch my channel, you guys know the journey that I've been on relating to some of the issues that I had and the hurdles I had with, weight gain and how I had to get myself out of that situation. And the way that I got myself out of that situation is all covered in this video right here. My darkest times in my life shaped the person I am today. So hopefully you get some value and get a new fresh perspective from this video. We'll chat more about it there, guys. See you there.